All right. So we might as well start because
2:00.
it's 2:00. Time is coming. Everyone vaguely, roughly knows what they're doing here. This is, if you don't know what Talkaoke is, it's a kind of pop-up talk show where we just talk about whatever comes up, and we've got a lot of familiar faces. We've got a few new faces. With Joe, we were just talking about Joe. Do you run the library or help to run the library? Hang on. Let me just. Okay, there we go. And that means we're actually going live because I can hear myself as well. So that's really good. So yeah, so we're pretty much ready to start. We've got, let's see we've got in the room. We've got Ellen, we've got Hortense, we've got Margot, aka the People's Speaker. We've got Joe, we've got Emmett, and we've got Hortense. So I guess we can get the conversation going. Where do we want to start with this? Do we want to carry on talking about libraries? We were just before we went live talking about. Oh, there's a point there from Margot. What was your point?
Yeah, I think confession. I think I have been to Upper Norwood Library.
Yeah.
To a. Do you have like this on the downstairs floor? You've got like an exchange point. People can come in and like borrow a mixer or something.
Yeah, we do.
I thought that was so brilliant.
Yeah, we do. I'm involved in that project. So I'm the community activator for Crystal Palace Library of Things.
Amazing.
And it is a very cool project, which I'm proud of. It's very much a collective effort, just to clarify. I have a role in it. It was started down in West Norwood, and then Crystal Palace is the kind of like a bit of a flagship one at the moment, or Upper Norwood, Upper Norwood Crystal Palace. And yeah, really proud and excited and very, it was crowdfunded by the local community.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool project, which I could happily say more about and answer questions about. Before we went on air, Mikey was asking, yeah, there's plans to open in a number of places over London, so it's pretty exciting.
I think, do you know what, I kind of, when I saw it then, and I thought, you know, that was kind of pre-pandemic, and I thought, you know, oh, it's nice that kind of happens, that people want to share things, because I think as a society kind of grown into like, you know, just demanding things, wanting them for ourselves, and just like, you know, buying new stuff all the time. But I reckon it's going to be just so popular once everything is back to so-called normal. Yeah. Because I feel like people are just reconnecting with a sense of community in a different way.
Okay, here's one for you, Margot. Will we go back to normal, and what will the new normal look like?
So, wow, is it a question for me?
Well, it's a question for everybody.
For everyone.
What is we going to go back? Are we going to go back to normal? What do people think?
So I was talking to this artist today, and they said, blah blah blah. When everything goes back to normal, I mean, it was never normal, and I just thought, wait, what? So maybe there was never any normal.
I mean, what do people think? Was the normal not a normal? Was it not really? Was it a false normal?
It was a strange normal.
Yeah.
Abnormal.
Any other views? Anyone else think that the normal is gonna? Yeah.
You know what? I think it's too early to like know what will happen afterwards. You know, I think it all depends on how long this goes on for. Really, I mean, that's what I think. And then yeah, so I think it's too early to really work out what it's going to be like afterwards. That's how I feel.
But do you think that kind of the current situation is like really making us think about, you know, the kind of times before the pandemic, and kind of reevaluate what the hell we were going on about back then? Because for sure, I mean, we probably can't tell what's going to happen, you know, like you said, exactly. It depends on so many things, how long it goes on for and stuff, where we will wake up in a few weeks, a few months' time.
Yeah.
But certainly I'm finding the way that I look at the past, it's like changed slightly.
But I mean, so we're looking at the past differently. I mean, what about the future? Can we imagine what that normal, I mean, is there a way to sort of like make it a better new normal? Could it be better?
I mean, I think the fact that there's a lot of people working from home, definitely, I think a lot of businesses are gonna incorporate working from home and really like value people working from home more. A lot of people are spending time with their families now, and I think people are gonna value their families more and perhaps realize that maybe where they're placing their value in life, you know, wasn't perhaps right, you know. So.
No, for sure. I'm definitely noticing I'm spending more time on WhatsApp with my mum. And when I say to her, "Hey, I'm working from home today," actually, she's like, "What? What does that mean?" Because we just got used to being in contact like more frequently now. It's like, what, you know?
Joe, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like my more aspirational friends saying things like, we can never go back to what was before, and there's quite a lot of what is it like, sort of like there's a lot of really understandable reflection going on, which I think is extremely healthy, and I'm doing that too. I mean, the proactive and practical part of me feels like that whatever happens next is actually down to what we all do, because there's a danger that I think there are certain forces with quite a lot of interests, you know, that will just want things to go back to the way they want them. So that if we want things, you know, if we want things to be more community centered, more focused on people and on values, I think we need to get on with that in a way, because I think that we need to create those structures or celebrate the structures that are good or that we value, because once, you know, I think there'll be other forces that'll just want everything to just recapture the ground in a way, you know.
Sorry, just changing the settings a little bit. Hortense, you should be able to share now. Share your screen. So we're talking about, what have we got here? That's our first visual. Was it ever normal? We've got Hortense doing the visuals.
Lovely.
So we're talking about, I guess your point, Joe, is, you know, like, I mean, is this a moment that we can actually do something different? Or is that just kind of pie in the sky where we're all sitting at home kind of fantasizing? What do people think?
You know, I suppose right now, you know, there's not really much else we have to do. So, well, okay, maybe I'll speak for a few people. A lot of people are finding that, you know, they're searching for things to do, things to keep themselves busy. So I know there's groups like, the mutual aid groups that have really like been so helpful in terms of supporting people in the community. But I just wonder what's going to happen when, you know, people get back to their normal lives, you know, jobs open up again. You know, are we going to forget about these relationships we've kind of forged with the community? You know, are we going to become too busy? You know, often people, you know, having worked in my local community quite a bit, you know, often people are quite busy with work, so they don't really get to, you know, volunteer in the community or even like campaign to the local council, for example. I just hope that perhaps that these relationships that we forged with the community, they don't just break away once people get back to their busy lives again.
Well, I mean, how do you think we can keep them stronger?
I think people need to realize that we need each other to exist and to actually balance our lives out. I mean, people need to realize that, I mean, I don't know, nearly we need to rebrand what it is to be part of a community. So it's kind of enticing before it starts sinking in, the genuine need for being part of a community and the kind of retention of people doing good things within community. Because it seems to me like it's just a bit like, is it useful it's like an algorithm. Is it useful to me? Is it cool? Is it whatever?
So how do we rebrand it to make it more attractive? Or is it just about the question of time?
I don't know. I think maybe the point is that we just, you know, it's impossible. Like, do we need to rebrand it, or do we just need to like get a grip as humanity and just not do what we fancy doing all the time? It's not some kind of like a, you know, supermarket scenario and just come in and just buy whatever you want. It's not about you. It's not about me. We have to do things and think collectively. And I think there's so much, there's so much negativity about like China or is it North Korea, the communist one, or South Korea?
Yeah. Have they got a strong community spirit there?
No, but I think what I'm trying to say, yeah, for sure. But I think, or like this book, 1984, it's like, oh yeah, look at these individuals being so oppressed. Do you know what? A bit of oppression of individuality would do us really good. Like, forget individuality. Can't hear you, Mikey, by the way.
Some have said we have gone a bit 1984 at the moment.
Let's pick good things out of it.
What's that?
I think there's something for me around examples of good practice that already exist, and like there is quite a lot of, depends where you live and what your vibe is. I mean, there's a pretty strong community around Crystal Palace, and I think there's been so there's quite a lot of networking to help small businesses. There's the mutual aid group's pretty strong. There's I was on an online meeting this week where there was counsellors, businesses, community groups all talking online like this, and I think that is a start. It's like drawing those webs together in a really strong way and realizing that that's kind of maybe, and then, so I'm part of the Transition Time movement, which helped start the Library of Things and was involved in setting up a food market and various other things. So these like examples of good practice. So it's like, look around you and see, and actually sometimes it can be very traditional things. Like I think things like, I don't know, like we've got a really good women's institute here, or the Chamber of Commerce, or like, just little, groups of older people playing cricket or something. They're all networks, and I think there's a lot of really good stuff out there. It's just, I mean, has anybody else found they're talking to their neighbors a lot more than they were before? I've got to know people across the street and stuff, which I really like.
I was talking to my neighbours before, but now I can just see them down there doing exercise. I find that really intimidating because they're more sporty than us in that house. But I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I suppose you're right. There are people, involved in community initiatives all the time. So it's just a question. I mean, I don't know. Is it just a question of people who are already involved just kind of like having a stronger message out there? I mean, I don't know, maybe, yeah, I sometimes feel like I'm not connected in community at all, but maybe it's just about rephrasing what a community is and realize they can make an effort and impact on it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have been using the hand. I'm going to start using the hand.
I think that, sorry, what was the question, Joe? You asked a question and I just lost my train.
I suppose I was just, maybe it wasn't so much a question as just sort of like, what are those, do you have any strands in your own community that you can celebrate?
And do you see your neighbor, and do you talk to your neighbors more?
Yeah, and are you talking to your own neighbors more than you were before? And I am a bit, I mean, I always say hello to some people, but I've just noticed there's people that because we've got like another block opposite, people are coming out to clap the NHS or just standing on their balconies a lot. So I'm finding myself saying, so I've just got broken up, started better conversations with some people than I ever had before, which is.
I mean, I'm doing that as well, but I put that more down to a sort of lack of like human contact. So whenever I go to the shop, I'm like having a long, in-depth conversation with a person in the shop rather than just, buying my beans.
But that's just standard for you, Mikey, though.
No, it's got a lot worse. We've got a new face in here. I believe Kane, say hello. Are you there?
Hello, I'm here.
Okay, we can't see you though. Do you want to start your camera, or you're in a?
Oh yeah, I see.
Oh no, there we go.
It was not there. Can
So
you see me now?
yeah, so at the moment we're talking about community, and will the idea of community actually change when we get out of this? Will we keep those connections that we're making, stronger connections between neighbours? Will we just go back to normal? What is the new normal? What is normal? Were we even normal before? Were we kind of something? Ellen, come on, what are you going to say?
Just running off the point you were saying, Joe, about community, because I was already active in the community, I still talk to a lot of my immediate neighbours. However, I'm part of like different WhatsApp groups for the different mutual aid groups, and I feel that after this I'm definitely going to want to see these people in real life. And I know there's been some discussion about how can we continue this, all of the work that's been done in the mutual aid group? How can we kind of like continue and keep those connections going after, you know, the situation that we're currently in? So I know there's a lot of talks about that. And I think what's been good about this situation is that, you know, it kind of allows you to connect to people who are also active and quite keen to do things in the community. So I think that's a good thing. How can we kind of like continue and keep? Okay.
Oops. Yeah. I don't know what happened there. A little bit of a sound glitch, but Kane, you've got a point.
Yeah, I guess like thinking from a kind of cultural and charity sector perspective, I do think that those organisations are having to really rethink and to a certain extent define who their communities are at this time and how they really serve them. Yeah, I think that will be really key to those that sort of get through this period and those who maybe sort of fall flat.
I mean, do you think people will fall flat? Do you think some communities will, or community groups will just disappear, or charities? Do you think they'll be suffering?
Yeah, of course. I think that's true across every single sector, that some organisations will be okay and others won't. You know, it's to a certain extent, it's just the maths of the situation of, you know, if there's only a finite amount of support available, and it's not enough for everyone.
Okay, so you think the support won't go around, and some is it those that are not defining their community that will disappear, or is there other elements to this?
Yeah, I think that is a huge part, is those that are, you know, like from an arts perspective, there's like obviously lots of organizations that are putting out, like diving into their archive, putting out like live streams of shows and everything like that, which is all well and good, and maybe that builds a new audience. But I think it's the ones that are really thinking of like, how do you actually engage those who are most vulnerable and those who are most isolated at this time, and how do you, you know, because lots of organizations do really, really incredible work with young people and other hard to reach groups, and I think it's the ones that don't think, okay, well, we've just got to put this on pause for now, but actually think, well, what can we do that is different and maybe isn't just about like showing shows on Facebook that kind of reach a culturally engaged audience already.
I mean, have you seen some more imaginative approaches? And this goes out to everybody around.
Yeah, I mean, Company 3 is a really good example of how they've already launched a big youth participation program, which isn't just working with their kind of core group of 70 young people, but is also working with other youth companies around the world. To affect that, they're creating effectively a young people's time capsule of this moment in time.
So they're connecting all around the world with all their different organizations around the world. I mean, maybe we should be doing the same thing, I suppose.
Yeah, where's like French Talkaoke? You should be connecting with the sort of French Talkaoke host or Brazilian Talkaoke.
Well, we've got our French Talkaoke hosts online already, but Hortense is doing the visuals today. But should we be doing this in French, or should we be doing this in other languages as well? Because we've got actually of the 6 participants, 4 of them are actually Talkaoke hosts, which is quite a high number. Well, in fact, you've had to go in the middle as well, Kane. So it's only really Joe that's online that hasn't actually been in the middle of a Talkaoke table. Yeah. So we are, I suppose, this in a way is like a Talkaoke of Talkaoke hosts. Should we be doing this in French, Hortense?
Why? Yeah.
I don't know why. I mean, Kane's saying we should be connecting globally in this time, just to sort of put our reach out while we can. Would that work? I mean, would it have any benefit? You're saying that you can't really see a reason why you do this in French with a French audience.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, is there a French audience that would benefit?
I don't know. I mean, say we do Pete the Monkey Festival, maybe we could do like say to their group, let's just have a talkie-okie amongst those people while everyone's in quarantine. Get them all talking. Maybe you could be in the center of the conversation.
Yeah.
Would it work?
Well, yeah.
Would it be a good way to connect with that isolated audience?
Sure. And people are actually apparently like people in France are really extremely settled about the rules of the quarantine, so they actually don't go out at all. So they really thrive on like live events.
So it might be a worthwhile thing to do if we can just gather an audience together. But would you be up for it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And could we do it in any other languages? Any takers?
German.
Any other languages? Could we do Talkaoke in?
I think we should do it in Esperanto and just really, and just really try.
That's an international language, isn't it? So
that is an international language, Mikey, correct? But
Mikey, Mikey, you can speak a bit of Turkish, can't you?
Az Türkçe biliyorum, evet. I don't know if I could host. I don't know if I could host Talkaoke in Turkish, though.
I think you could, but would it be watchable?
Well, I don't know. It might be more interesting than this one. I don't know. But yeah, I could probably do a food-based program in Turkish, I suppose. I know all the food words.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
But speaking of food, not at all, but and communities actually, about connecting with communities. I connected with a community yesterday because yesterday was a Passover.
Oh, right.
So I had my first ever Passover get together, and it was on Zoom.
It was absolute chaos.
I can't say that I would be able to confidently say what Passover ritual consists of. But it was a lot of fun, and actually, that was something that I connected with, which was completely new to me, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah.
What did you learn then?
Absolutely nothing, because they were just like speaking over each other, and nobody could really sing Hebrew in Yiddish or Hebrew or.
Does anyone know anything about Passover? They can tell us about Passover.
Yeah, so it was my family's Passover.
Okay.
We're pretty bad at most times doing any of the songs, but it was really, really highlighted over Zoom. But yeah, I mean, the Passover is particularly relevant at this time because it's about the Jews leaving, escaping bondage from Egypt, and bringing down 12 plagues on the Egyptians. Right.
Okay. So there was some kind of there was an element of pandemic, but it wasn't like it was like a deliberately.
It was really targeted pandemic.
Targeted pandemic, yeah. Okay, interested.
You could say that about the current pandemic, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, is that playing into this kind of conspiracy theory sort of idea?
It's called talking about scapegoating.
Yeah.
And whenever there's this political massive trouble, there's always a scapegoating. And I think in the arts, we should probably try to foresee what are the issues, what are they going to be for minorities, or because there's going to be always a scapegoating, I think.
Who's going to be scapegoated for this one?
Chinese.
You think?
Well, I feel that's where the conspiracy theories are going already, and that's the sort of language that Donald Trump's using to fight against the World Health Organization in China. So I think it's already there to a certain degree.
Yeah. So the one who like with pollution and like more into economical thrived and self-care. So the one who like can spread the imagination of people.
Okay, so
I'd like to see a rise of a new conspiracy theory, maybe something positive and nice.
A positive
and I'd like to like the creativity,
Mm.
contagious.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, I don't know if
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, can you have a positive conspiracy theory, and what would that look like?
Mm.
That's
Shit,
kind of
imagine.
interesting. Like, maybe that would help us, you know, going back to this new normal. Maybe we could create some kind of weird myth out of this. That the coronavirus was maybe created by Extinction Rebellion in order to, you know, to slow down the planet or something like that. And it's about getting people to go back to their homes to kind of focus on their creativity, to come back out as eco warriors. I mean, what would the positive conspiracy theory look like?
Oh, I really don't know. Like, for instance, people who volunteer in community have got very successful love life.
Yeah, actually.
It's the sex toy industry.
And the dating is like changing. Like as soon as people get bored, they try to invent new forms of dating. I've realized on Instagram, it's crazy that people actually have new dates on live streams.
Right.
Oh, really? I mean, are there any people who are currently dating on this chat who could?
Yeah. It is. Like people from 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, they're actually dating on Instagram so everybody can see. And like, really,
what you mean? It's in public?
Yeah, well, because it's a live.
How does that work?
They just set up a time talking by like group chat, and then it gives them, because of the quarantine, it gives them a proper reason to actually do something that is normally not normal, to like just propose a live stream that is not on a special topic and a proper interesting reason for people. They just do it for entertaining people from their wish to date. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's a good
Talkaoke speed dating then.
I think that came up before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was before, but now it's quite crazy because people have just no boundaries of like anything. It's just a date. Like they have a glass of wine and they talk stuff.
Yeah.
And they show it to everybody.
That sounds quite interesting.
But yeah, apparently the sex toy industry is booming at the moment.
Oh my days. Guys, it's like 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, well,
I'm going to have to go actually very shortly.
Yeah. Is it getting too steamy for you? Is that what's going on, Margot?
Yeah, no, I've got a date on Zoom. On Twitter.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe that could be the conspiracy. Perhaps people were suffering from serious isolation before. So now forced isolation means that people are actually coming together in some way, you know? So the government planned this so that it will force people to talk to each other and connect with each other.
Okay, so this is more the positive conspiracy theory.
Yeah, exactly.
That people are actually isolated already, but now they've been forced to isolate. They kind of name it and deal with it.
Yeah, and also as well, like it kind of helps the government because the community are going out there and finding out who the vulnerable people are. Like now, I know where all of the old people are in the area that are living by themselves. Well, before I would never have known. But
how do you know that
pandemic thing? Because with the COVID, with the mutual aid group, like one of the things that you had to do is put flyers through people's doors, so that way you kind of get talking to people. And now I know where a lot of the older people are.
Okay.
So it does the job for the government, you know. So I don't know. People are looking out for each other more, maybe, you know.
Ellen,
that's the positive conspiracy theory. Yeah.
I have a question, Ellen, on that. Because we've got the same thing, the mutual aid, leafleting through the doors. I sometimes am a bit, I'm a bit anxious that it's. Are we really getting the people? I'm not sure. I'm not convinced because I've been involved in it a bit as well, and we have a Facebook group, and I'm a bit worried about who's falling through the cracks, and I'm trying. I was interested in your answer there, and I think it's good that if people are replying to the leaflets. I think we had our leaflets delayed a little bit, but I think they have gone out now, but I haven't seen much response back from them yet.
Right.
So what are the leaflets?
So it's the mutual aid groups put out a leaflet letting everyone in their area know that mutual aid exists and some contact details and ways to ask for help if you're self-isolating, if you're vulnerable, if you, I mean, it's in conjunction. What's tricky is this conjunction with you know, what the government are doing, what other groups might be doing, and what the NHS volunteers are doing. But it's I'm you know, a co-chair of my one of my local organizations, and I'm still struggling to kind of get a sense of who's mapping all this and who really knows what's going on. You know, and is it yeah, you know, I know some local old people who I'm keeping an eye on, but I wonder like who's falling through the cracks. Interesting.
And what is the support that's offered apart from obviously like the essential stuff in terms of getting food and
well, yeah, so I think in terms of what mutual aid are offering, it tends to, it's really just, I mean, any kind of like, it's primarily any kind of deliveries mostly, or doing errands for people who can't leave the house. But that could be things like pharmacy visits and stuff as well, which can be really helpful if people are in, particularly if they're in one of those older groups.
I guess one of the things I was wondering is just, you know, obviously how, as we've spoken about already, how important that kind of having a social life and be it online, and having people to speak to, and to what extent, you know, obviously there's the kind of frontline care for those who are isolated and how important that is, but to what extent there's also a need to be thinking about, or maybe there is already a way of, you know, just having people to speak to.
Absolutely.
I know what you mean about that point of people falling through the cracks. How do you kind of avoid that, especially in this time where you do need to be distant? That is quite challenging. It is concerning as well.
One exciting thing that as part of one of my roles and in conjunction with Upper Norwood Library Hub, we are looking at an idea of creating some sort of library of people, which in a way, Galina Rin, who has set up this stream, has already started that and has like, there's like yoga and there's like little talks and chats going on. But I think it's got a lot of potential. I don't think it's quite kicked off yet anyway, but I'm kind of interested and excited about it. I think there's more. I think I'm trying to sort of get some ducks in a row to kick it off a bit more. And I think
how would it work? What is this library of people? How does that?
I think in one sense it could be just lots of live streaming options, timetable throughout the day. I mean, I know this doesn't quite. I think Kane's point is a good one, and I agree with him. At the moment, it's a little bit less ambitious than that, where it's more like people talking about yoga or talking about gardening or talking about hacking, you know, DIY or fixing things in their house or various things. But we do have a strong offline community in Crystal Palace, you know, in the sense of like everything from local history groups to all sorts of little meetups and stuff. So if we can bring a lot of them online, they can create some vibrancy and some community.
Right. So they're kind of putting their knowledge their knowledge that's in their head forward as a kind of reference point for people in the library, kind of thing. We got a new face. We got a new talking about this. We're talking about a library of people for Javia that's just joined us. Just say hello, Javia. You're muted at the moment. Let me unmute you. Say hello.
Go on mute. Enjoying some sweet corn.
Oh, fantastic. Welcome.
Thank you. What's up?
We're kind of talking about community. We're talking about what happens, you know, what is the new normal going to be? And lots of really interesting ideas, like could you have like a positive conspiracy theory instead of it being like the Chinese have created this virus, the government has created this virus to get us all to think about our community a bit more. So that was one of the ideas, is like, could we create this kind of positive myth about what this is all about? And then just the last thing we're talking about, we've got Joe here, who's actually works for Norwood Library, that's talking about this library of people. And could you get people together, maybe that don't normally go online, they've got all this knowledge in their heads, and almost be like, is that right, Joe? Like human library books or human reference points?
Yeah, I mean, it's still, yeah, I mean, it might be relatively basic to begin with, but I think it's got a lot of potential. So I think you start with like things that are easier wins, but you know, like for whether it's just someone talking about their cooking or someone talking about their gardening or their DIY or kind of relatively safe topics. But I do think it's got a lot of potential. I mean, one slightly more controversial one, or like more interesting, like, so there's, you know, the Death Cafe movement.
Yeah, funny enough, we were talking about this different Talkaoke session a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Maybe Rick, you can share the visual of that one.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We do have an active Death Cafe in Crystal
Right.
Palace.
Right.
And I was thinking that's an interesting one to drop into the mix.
Yeah.
Alongside the more obvious, upbeat, positive, you know, models that might be out there. And I do think there's also something in, I mean, I'm sure we've all been doing different types of Zoom connection over the last few weeks. And isn't there just something in seeing familiar faces when at a time when you're not seeing that many of them, which is quite heartwarming.
Yeah.
But I just holding on to Keane's point around something that's a bit more really needs-based and more interactive is a good point, which I don't know if I've got the capacity to really deliver on, but I think it's, I mean, I know the NHS have like a phone call, you know, the volunteers on the NHS are taking calls. I don't exactly know how that works and how well it's working, but I know a few friends have volunteered for it.
I mean, I've been saying to a lot of the cultural organisations that I'm connected to, and at a presentation I did on Tuesday of just saying, like, you just need to get a lot of those organisations and a lot of community organisations have those connections, and it's just about thinking fast about how they maybe test things and pilot things, understanding that they might be a bit scratchy.
Yeah.
But they will often have those connections, and I think so much is paused at the moment. But organisations are now in quite a good position after a period of pause to actually start thinking. You know, I think that the conversations are open and the pathways to reaching those more vulnerable people are there. It just needs to be sort of thought through.
I mean, okay, but I mean, for sure, this is working for us and for the group. It is really sort of a kind of close friends in a way. That are actually on the line. I thought it might be a bit. We might expand this. I mean, it's great to see all of you guys, but you know, this is very much the inner hub, the inner people speak hub, plus Joe here. So how do we actually expand out? And because I mean, you know, this is just the start of even today's conversation, but how do we actually entice those people into a conversation that we don't even know who they are, you know? So there are, I'm just assuming that people would want to join in if they knew about it, but I mean, how do we actually get to those people?
I was thinking, I mean, there's an option of dialing in with Talkio. It's just having to. It's just like any of the groundwork. I think for you need to be directly contacting and telling people about it ahead of time.
And making them. I think also allowing them to feel comfortable about actually being part of it as well. You know, because I think it's probably a very weird thing just to jump in on when we're just having a general chit chat. And the other thing is most of us know each other as well. So that I don't think it necessarily helps if new people are coming in. But I just want to say to those people that are watching right now, please come and join us. I'm pointing at them in an intimidating way now, but do come and join us and come and join in the chat. What do you think about community after the gates get unlocked and we all come back out? Are we going to have a new normal? Is anything going to change? Have we got the power to change it? Can we connect with those people that are not necessarily connected? All these questions that we need answers to. Jarvia, you haven't said much so far. Have you got anything to?
Well, I'm kind of drawn to the idea of positive mythology, and I have something very tangible. Possibly contribute just in our just moment right now, just information which left me feeling upbeat. I've worked and spent time with an amazing medicine tribe, a matriarchal medicine tribe called the Shipibo in Peru, in the Amazon.
Yeah.
And some of the maestros that I've worked with there are just some of the most incredible, powerful humans and healers and all of that. And I haven't spoken with them in a couple of years, and I had a WhatsApp call from... Hey?
Sorry, that was my thing making a noise. Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
And so I had a WhatsApp call, hilariously.
Yeah. WhatsApp to the Amazon.
Yeah. And she called to see how I was, and then went on to kind of give me a bit of a 2.5-hour cosmic download of Shipibo perception on what's happening. And
what's the Shipibo take on the coronavirus?
That it is the Great Awakening.
Really?
Yeah. One of the first things she said to me was, she first of all asked how I was, and then she said, our real work starts now. The darkness has broken. And one of the first things she said was, today the sunlight is not the same, and tonight the moonlight will not be the same, because the darkness has broken.
Wow.
And this will break the economy, and that will break their power. And this is our time.
Amazing.
The animals are suffering. They needed something like this. They said that the medicine, ayahuasca, the medicine had been telling them that there would be, that we would what did they say? Well, they said, they talked about a suffocating disease. They knew there would be a disease that would suffocate us, and that people would be kind of indoors. I can't remember what word she said, but basically acknowledging that there will be, and this is the bizarre thing with the Shipibo. So they are absolutely grounded in, of course, their experience, their interpretation, their practices, but they can talk to you about second stage, this recurrent, like their ability to switch across into medical.
So they know their shit, basically.
And, yeah, they know their shit, you know. And so, and so they said that the medicine said there would be a lot of death, and that will be sad, of course, but cosmically it's needed for the awakening.
Right. Okay. So we were asking for a positive mythology, and we kind of got one, kind of wrapped up in a ribbon there. Yeah. Ellem's got a point to make.
My question is, who are the Shipibo?
Shipibo are a matriarchal medicine tribe in the Amazon. They are the expert medicine people of the Amazon. And yeah, phenomenal. An enlightened group of people as well. You know, there's gender equality. They're kind of like bonobos, but without the sex, you know, that level.
Yeah. Okay. I had a question that I'm not actually going to ask about. But anyway, I've just noticed.
One of the most peaceful species on the planet was my point.
Yeah. Hang on a sec, Java, because we've got someone on the thing, on the Facebook chat, Yvonne, saying Joe's talking a lot of sense and mentioning the Froome model of social isolation. So I just want to say to Yvonne, you should be able to see the Zoom link there. Come and tell us about it. Come and join in the chat. And tell us about this Froome model of reducing social isolation, because we want to hear from you. So jump online, jump on Zoom, or you can even call me up if you want to. If you're not on Zoom, I'm just going to write my phone number in the thing, and I've got the phone connected to this. So if you want to just call in, you're very welcome to do that as well. Anyway, so where do we want to go with this? Do we want to talk about this positive mythology, the shamans in the jungle are feeling very positive about this? The economy is going to break. That's a good thing.
She was excited, and it left me feeling excited. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yes, it's mental, but Jesus, finally has the light broken. I can live with that for a little while, you know? Yeah. So.
Whoa. Crazy. Someone's got some notifications going on. Okay, so where do we want to go with this? Any responses? Ellen, come on, come into this.
Well, firstly, I was going to say, Mikey, maybe what you could do is advertise on Eventbrite, because going on there, I see that there's a lot of online events happening. So maybe that could broaden the reach. You know, I know the Tommy Flowers one is happening.
Yeah.
But that could broaden the reach of this conversation.
Yeah.
And I was also going to say, you know, I found it so beneficial getting involved with cultural institutions as they've moved online. There's a cinema that I really.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have to say, connecting with them it's really
what
helped
cinema is that?
me kind of get through. Do you know then they've got a documentary cinema, Doc House.
Okay.
So so they still show documentaries and stuff, but it's all online via like Netflix party and things like that. Plus there's a lot of really interesting discussions that I would never have been open to hadn't it been for these online connections. So I feel so much more connected to that cinema than I did before. And also I was going to say that, you know, going on to your point, Joe, about perhaps having some kind of online people's directory or, you know, something like that. I kind of, it reminds me of all of the Instagram lives and how you are now like, sometimes I feel like I'm peering in, I'm just a part of people's conversations who I would never have heard of before. I'm like learning so much about all of these people who I follow and never got to see before, never really got an insight into what their lives are like, or, you know, the little thing that I'm following, whether it's about plants or whatever, I'm getting really in-depth information now because people have so much time. They want to talk, they want to share their knowledge because I'm sure it helps them as much as it helps me. So I think it would be such a good thing to move, you know, your library, that institution.
So we should be going Instagram live as well.
Yeah, I mean, hey, for you, Mikey, why not?
Oh, are you talking about Joe?
Yeah.
I was kind of saying for Joe, like what you were talking about just made me think of all of the Instagram lives and how I'm getting insight into all of these people who I follow. You know, I would never have got the wealth of information that I've got since, you know, being a part of
this life. One other, you know, it's really interesting, and I suppose I'm generationally not that into Instagram personally. It's kind of like I do use it a little bit, but I'm never very good on it. I have to use it for work a bit. But I think you're right. I think that's a whole new opening, a whole area that I need to explore more. Absolutely. And I think the other thing that's interesting, which we haven't quite got here yet, although we're starting to get a little bit of interaction online. I mean, we do have quite strong local channels. This time, I wasn't really sure how, you know, we didn't quite get there in time in terms of promoting it, but I think there is something about having these really hyper local conversations, which if you're in a community like we are in, you know, Crystal Palace, then, you know, like I reckon, I know Yvonne who's listening, because she comes to some events. So it's like you start rejoining things or reconnecting and start making those connections again. And I think that can be really valuable. And I mean, this is part of the reason why I was interested in this is we've had things like community drinks in Crystal Palace, and I'd like to start them up again on Zoom or something. And I've been a little bit nervous around it because I'm not sure how it would go, but this is an interesting.
You think people might get a little bit too wasted, or?
No, just managing. Well, I guess because this is such a stressful time, I'm just conscious of bringing lots of people into the room where I might not have the resources to support them. You know, if you make it very open, but maybe that's being overly nervous and just trusting the process. Because, you know, if I bring a lot of people in and there's just one or two facilitators and there's a lot of need in this space, it could be challenging enough. One answer is to bring in people from like the likes of mutual aid. You know, we have connections with local councillors as well, you know, from the different boroughs. So there's ways that you can bring in players.
In a way, just connect people rather than, you know, when people have got problems, rather than try to deal with it yourself. Signpost them to where they could go. I suppose it's the same ethos as this kind of as this library, this human library in a way. I guess as a librarian, that's kind of your job anyway, isn't it? To help people find the information.
Yeah. I'm not a librarian, but you're right. It's
okay. Sorry. Oops.
No, I don't mind. I quite like the idea of being a librarian. But you're right. It is about signposting, and I suppose it's making the most of what's already there, maximizing what's in the community, and creating spaces like, you know, for people to connect, feel like they've talked to somebody that day rather than just nobody. In some cases, nobody. You know, some people aren't talking to anybody. I'm lucky because I have my partner here and my 3 stepsons, but some people aren't having meaningful conversations.
I mean, we just got to deal with what we've got, really, haven't we?
I'd say so. I'd say so.
Okay, so where do we want to go with this? Do we want to talk about the shamanic idea of coronavirus? Do we want to talk about maybe they've got some idea about how to connect the community? Do we want to talk about online drinks? Do we want to talk about connecting people, signposting people to the right people? Well, how are we going to carry on this conversation? Those who know Talkaoke know it's kind of up to you to decide where you want to go with this. So
yeah,
the Death Cafe. Yeah.
You know.
Go on, Ellen.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I think online drinks sounds like a really, really positive thing, actually, because, you know, I think people drinking alone can come with its own issues as well, but drinking with, I think studies have shown that drinking together is better than, you know, drinking alone, especially now that like pubs and bars and stuff, they're not going to be open for a while. So I think that sounds like a really good thing.
If you're going to drink with,
people may be a little bit more conscious about how much they're drinking as well, because you're doing it in front of other people. So
yeah. We've got actually a message in from Yvonne again, because I did ask Yvonne about this social isolation model with Froome, and Froome has set up a team. Yvonne's about to go and play online bridge, so she can't join us, but there's a team of volunteers that guarantee that nobody in the community ever needs to feel lonely, and it's been running a couple of years. They divide, and another community is divided up streets into sections, so they've got their own WhatsApp or Facebook group. So there are initiatives going on, I guess. I'm trying to somehow. Oh, here we go. This is a visual that we did from a couple of sessions ago of the Death Cafe. I don't know if your one is as popular as the one that Rick's visualized there, or if it does like a special offer on subs by the look. I don't know what the special offer is, but it seems to be quite popular there, the Death Cafe. But anyway, yeah, just to sort of show that we have been talking about it, and we have been trying to sort of, that's actually based on another thing we've been doing about mental health. We've got a couple of new faces here. Piotr, I don't know if you can hear us. If you can, come and say hello. Where do we want to take this conversation? Any thoughts? Any direction on this one? Do we want to talk about? Yeah, Ellen.
My question is, you know, what I'd like to kind of know, what has the journey? How have people processed, you know, everything that's going on? What's the journey been like for you? You know, in the beginning, you know, obviously I was, you know, very worried, but now I feel a sense of ease.
Right.
So yeah, I'm just genuinely interested in what's people's journeys been like while going through this, and how have they sort of processed that?
Well, you know what, Ellen, I'm going to turn the mirror around and ask you, what has your journey been like?
Well, I guess I kind of mentioned that, you know, definitely was in denial. Initially, I didn't really want to believe what was going on. I was one of those people that, you know, many weeks ago now, you know, I remember working with somebody whose girlfriend's a nurse, and so I was getting some direct information about what's happening in the hospitals, and it sounded horrific, and I didn't really want to believe it. And then then obviously, you know, I was very anxious the week before. The gyms and cafes closed, because I work in a gym and a cafe, and I'm doing some freelance stuff. So yeah, I was very worried, but you know, now I just feel a sense of ease and acceptance, you know. And I feel like I can manage the anxiety more now. And, you know, I ended up getting a very mild version of the virus. So
you've had the virus already?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely coming out of it now. So maybe that's the reason why I feel a sense of ease, because I know I've had it now. I know that, you know, I feel very lucky, very grateful. And I'm just really trying to practice a lot of gratitude. Yeah.
Okay. So that's anyone else want to share their journey? How the perception of this whole thing has changed?
Yeah, well, for myself personally, I'm a radiographer, and you know, we've been talking about it really since December. And my initial thing was, what, you know, when we were seeing images of it, we were like, what is this? And
what do you mean images of it? What were you seeing? What were you?
High resolution CT imaging of what's going on, because the density of it can't really be picked up in its true form on X-ray.
Right.
And if it's going to be CT, it has to be high resolution with contrast at a very particular technical thin slide.
Right. So these are kind of like images of the lungs you're talking about.
Yeah, but before we got to that, because imaging was missing it, because they didn't realize in December. So in December, we were taking information from autopsies.
Right.
And having really good international kind of sharing of information. And so we very early on knew that imaging was an issue, that we weren't able to weirdly see this thing that's happening. And the autopsies were describing the consequences of how it's changing the lungs. So having all that information, and then looking at Italy, knowing, oh my God, like, can someone please do something at our airports, like right now?
Right.
And that was in February. You
Right.
know, and then we started learning more about it, and having daily meetings where every single day medics were learning new things, and we were, finding out technical adaptations and all these different experiences, and knowing that, oh my God, like we this is coming.
Right.
And then we knew it was coming, and it's time for lockdown, early mid-February at the latest, and we watched as the government just allowed it to carry on, and it's been incredibly stressful knowing what it is, seeing how it's kind of mispresented and downplayed, and now we're kind of there. And I'm personally getting calls and emails daily to go back and work on
Right.
the NHS, and I've asked for 3 things. I've asked them, have they adjusted the pay rate to take it to more than what I earned as a junior graduate in 1999, which is what they're offering me now to go back. It's before tax, it's like 18 or 19 pounds before tax to
Right.
go back in. And I asked for them to adjust the rate to address the fact that it's a pandemic. We're going in with serious personal risk. If they could guarantee us sick pay if we get sick during the contract, and if they can guarantee us adequate PPE for every shift. And I got a no, we're not adjusting your rate because you're happy with your rate.
Right.
One was,
Yeah.
the second was, what was the second question? Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Well, there was the rate, there was the
sick
PPE.
pay. No sick pay, and no,
Yeah.
we can't guarantee you PPE.
So it was a triple no.
A triple no, yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. So we've got a couple of new faces to this conversation. I just want to sort of like fill them in and where we've gone so far. We talked a lot about lots of different things about connecting to community. We talked about a kind of positive mythology of the coronavirus. How do we reach out to those people that are that we can't find? And the latest thing we've been talking about is, what is your coronavirus story? And in a way, I think the focus has been on how has your perception of this whole thing changed through the months. And we've heard from Ellen and Javier about how their whole understanding of this has changed, or how, from Javier's case, how the government's understanding or the society's understanding has changed. So does anyone else want to share their corona story, how they've actually, maybe Bina, you'd like to just say hello? Oh, let me unmute you. Hang on. You're muted. Say hello.
Hello. Test.
Hello. So yeah, so we're basically, where are you calling from?
From Berlin.
From Berlin. Okay. So at the moment we're talking about, I mean, you've just arrived, so I'm not going to pressure you right now, but we're talking about what is your coronavirus story, and how has it actually changed as the weeks and months have gone on? I mean, we heard from Ellen, who just thought it was all a big fuss over nothing to begin with, and then suddenly, you realize, whoa, this is big. So, and we heard from Javier, who works in the field as a radiographer, and has been seeing the images of people's lungs and stuff like that, and seeing how serious it is. So, anyone else want to volunteer their story?
Could I add in one more thing?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Of course you can. Of course you can.
So So we knew definitely 2 weeks. So if we knew back in February how serious it was, we definitely knew 2 weeks ago also
Yeah.
that it really was serious. And I had work booked in to work I work in a private hospital, and they called me 2 weeks ago and asked me to come in and do an extra. They needed cover for 12 hours, and I said I'd be able to do it. And when I wasn't in surgery, but we were always using masks anyway, that I would like to wear a mask to help support containment and to protect myself so that I can stay well and etc. Like sensible things. And they said, no, you're not going to be wearing a mask. Only around COVID positive patients. And I said, but you're not testing at the hospital. No one's getting tested. And what we're waiting for shortness of breath, you know. And they said, Jarvia, if you feel so compromised about not wearing a mask, then we won't require your help for the rest of the month. I've cancelled your shifts. And cancelled my shifts 10 hours before they were supposed to start. Wow. And I won't be getting paid for wanting to wear a mask 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. No furlough, no apology, just you're bloody troublemaker.
Wow.
And a radical troublemaker wanting to wear a mask in a fucking respiratory pandemic, you know what I mean? So this is the madness that we're dealing with, like the inadequate understanding and the sacrificing, the unapologetic sacrificing.
So there's a kind of expectation that you're just going to lay your life on the line.
Like, yeah.
Okay, Ellen, you got a point?
No.
Oh, no, you just got your hand up there. But okay, so where are we going to, anyone else want to share their Corona story? That's where we're going for this. Joe?
I can, but I don't have to if anybody else wants to go first.
Oh, no, come on. We want to hear from you.
All right. Okay. Some similarities to Jarvia's story in that because I have friends in the NHS and I have friends in Italy, which I know sort of starts to sound like a bit of a cliche, but if, you know, like, and my partners, I mean, my degree is biology and my partners did some nutritional medicine recently. So we were really trying to follow it. And yeah, like without, what to say. Yeah, really quite frustrated and angry. I mean, I don't even know if I can express how angry I am with the early policy. Right. I think it's beyond.
Yeah.
It's go out and scream in the street angry. Because of what the potential implications were of that policy prior to their turnaround around the 15th or 16th of March, which I'm extremely grateful for because it probably saved a lot of lives. But we're still getting lots of hangovers from that. And yeah, like I have had quite a lot of situations where I felt like the madman in the room.
Right, because you were like going, no, do something about this.
Or the sheriff in Jaws who trying to get everybody off the beach.
Yeah.
When the mayor is saying it's absolutely fine to go back out and swim.
Yeah.
So I tweeted on I actually thought we were going to lock down on the 16th completely, and I would have been, maybe thought that was a bit late. So I cancelled a gig and a trip to Ireland because of that. Mm-hmm. So, and then when it didn't really happen for a full week, I was like, what the so we can talk more about that, but just need to name that in a way. And then when the kind of lockdown has become a bit more like a lockdown, feel a bit safer and a bit more grounded. And also there's interesting intergenerational things going on here because young people understandably don't feel as threatened by this. And I completely understand that. And I've got 3 stepsons who we've had quite a lot of tensions with because they didn't really want to get involved in the lockdown and thought we were being hysterical. That has changed, and I'm really pleased it has changed, and they've been really cooperative and supportive, and I'm really, really touched by that. But how can you imagine them for being confused when the government have been so confused in their messaging, you know? So you asked about my pride. I don't want to get too political, but I am really fucking angry. So now then there's a little bit more acceptance of it and a sense of, right, what can we do that's practical? Looking around, I have got some leverage in my community or some levers I can pull. So trying to pull them the best I can. I mean, I was trying to, we have our food market. We brought in social distancing to the food market
right
long before, when I think everybody should have brought it in. And
right.
So we had queues when people were going, why have you got these queuing systems? and we were like, because it's kind of transmissible, and
Yeah.
but you couldn't. It was really difficult because you couldn't find anything online that was really saying at that point that people should be queuing in separation.
Right.
So there is a lot. Yeah. I could just.
I
go
mean,
on.
how do you feel about it now? Do you feel more positive? Do you feel still angry, or do you feel like
Yeah.
sense of hope? I mean, where are you going with this?
So I feel like, well, I don't even know if I think some of my anger is going to be there for years, because I just think it shouldn't go away. I'm refused to let it go away. But at the same time, we have to live our lives, and we don't want anger to burn us up. So I'm a very pragmatic, practical person. So I'm trying to find out what I can do practically to help my community, help myself, stay safe, get involved in things. I am still really disturbed by a kind of cognitive dissonance within a lot of the British media around how they're representing this in terms of the deaths.
Yeah.
I really, really can't get my head around it. It's almost like people have just started to die. And I do, I mean, there's lots of things about, I'm Irish, but there's lots of things about British culture I really admire. And I do admire the bulldog spirit and the stiff upper lip and the stoicism and the kind of, like, I think of Spitfire pilots and how brave they were. I do admire those things. And being an Irish nationalist, I had to come on a journey to admire those things. But I do think there's something really strange going on here around cognitive dissonance around what's actually happening.
Yeah. Is there can we hang on a sec, Ellen? I just want to sort of see if I can bring in Bina on this one, just to get the view from Germany. Is it different in Germany? Do you think people responding in a different way? Is the same anger with the government, or this dissonance that Joe's talking about?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. I think in the general thought is that government is doing quite a good job right now in Germany in general.
And what's your personal story? I mean, has your view of the whole thing changed?
I'm not sure I want to talk about this, actually.
Okay.
I've been talking about it too much. I just actually I want, that's something that I wanted to say there. I think it's important to know the times when you talk about these things and the times when you don't want to think about this at all. I think this has to be allowed to. So I think I'm going to leave right now. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I didn't mean to. I just wanted to sort of get a different perspective. But as you know, Talkaoke, being a bit of a regular as well, like a lot of the people on this stream, it's obviously there's no real pressure to take it in any particular direction. So hang on in there for a minute, Bina. I'm sure we'll go. I mean, a few minutes ago we were talking about shamans, Javia's WhatsApp call to shamans in the Amazon. But so I will go from different subjects. Let me then go to Ellen. Ellen, what's your point?
Well, I had a question for Joe, but I would just save that for a sec. I just wanted to find out, Sabine, what other things are you doing right now? What do you do to take your mind off the current situation? What keeps you busy throughout the day?
Well, sometimes I don't. I mean, I read the news but I try to make it kind of clear. Okay, right now I'm reading the news. I'm getting my mind to work on this, and then there is another time when I don't, and then I don't know. I've been reading a lot books that I don't have time to read normally. I try to go out. We're allowed to go out in Germany. Not in every country you can go out and go for a walk and stuff like that. And try to think of nice things that I can do after this has ended.
Any particular nice things you've got in mind?
Like playing music and stuff like that.
So you're a musician.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, where do we want to take this conversation? Do we want to talk about the things we're going to do when the gate is finally open? When we go, but I'm a bit worried myself that Talkaoke is going to be banned forever when even once the restrictions are lifted, because everyone's talking into the same microphone.
Gonna need a bigger table.
A bigger table, yeah, like with a 2 meter, and with a mic on like a really big stick, so I could just
It's like another Jaws reference.
Yeah,
you're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yeah. Okay, so where do we want to go with this conversation? Do we want to talk about other people's experience? Do we want to talk about what we're going to do afterwards? Do we want to talk about something completely different? It's kind of up to you. This is Talkaoke. Where do you want to go with this?
Well, I hope that the same love that people are, showing towards the NHS, many of whom have always, shown that kind of love and support towards the NHS before this. I hope that it kind of continues, and I hope that, there's been a lot of talk about all of the cuts that's been made to the NHS, and I hope that they get more support and more money is put in that area, because, I kind of, maybe I'm wrong, but when I'm clapping for the NHS, I find it quite patronizing. I don't know. Maybe
you feel
I'm
like
wrong
you're patronizing the NHS.
I just feel very patronizing. I'm taking the last one because I was quite angry about all the things I was reading about, anyway.
Yeah, what we heard about before, this lack of...
So hopefully after all of this, the NHS would get the support it needs, so...
Okay, we've got a raised hand from Kane. Thank you for raising your hand. What's your point, Kane?
Yeah, I guess it's not about, I think it's more about at this moment in time. I just, I was just thinking about how there's obviously there's a lot of empty properties across London and across the UK that, are not being used at the moment. People have gone off to their second or their third or their fourth home, and there's lots of shops and offices that are shut. But there's also quite a lot of people that don't really have, they're living in cramped conditions. They don't necessarily have outside space. I just wonder whether whether there should be some sort of buddying system where basically you get linked up with a property that's really close to you that's empty, and you can have that as a space to kind of chill out and relax during the day. It's just maybe it's the start of a redistribution of property in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, even on this street, most of the shops are kind of closed. They could be used as a sort of some kind of extra relaxation, socially distant relaxation space.
Well, I'm thinking you just get it's a raffle thing, and you get allocate a lottery thing, and you get allocated a local empty building. It's yours for the duration.
Yeah. Okay. What do people think about that idea? Should we be throwing people the keys to all the... There are a lot of... I mean, we're based here in Poplar. There are a lot of empty properties around here where they've built lots of new flats.
Oh, yeah, that's true, actually.
You could get really lucky and get if you live locally, you might get a massive venue like the South Bank Centre, and that's just yours.
Wow. Okay, so you're just talking about any... everyone gets the keys to the building, but they're only allowed to go in there themselves.
Yeah, it's just one per person. But, I mean, there's a lot of empty property at the moment.
Having the keys to the South Bank Centre would be a bit like an episode of The Shining, wouldn't it? Though, it's such a large building, you to run around yourself. I'm surely you could fit more than one person in the South Bank Centre. I don't know.
You could probably divide one per building.
Yeah, one per building. Okay. All right. So, so should we be using some of these properties in a more, resourceful way? And what kind of properties could we actually be getting into? I mean, we've got a church here actually that's kind of closed down that one person could use, I suppose.
Maybe some of these, I know Airbnb there's quite a lot of rentals that have been given to key workers in different parts of the world. Yeah. So I was thinking, people are always taking pics of people still on trains. And I just think, well, these people are obviously key workers. Maybe, some of these empty buildings owned by people who don't necessarily live in the UK, they should be forced to open those up to the key workers so they can safely have somewhere that's nice and safe to stay. And that's what I was thinking.
Okay, so open up these. So in a way, Airbnb are already doing it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I was reading an article where in different parts of the world, some of the flats are being given to key workers. So, yeah.
Okay, what other people think about that? Was there something there from Javia?
Yeah, it's happening in Islington actually.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Landlords, it's not just Airbnb. It's they've asked anybody with excess properties to make them available to frontline workers. So yeah, I know about that here in Islington. So boroughs as well, which is really great. You know, it's kind of because a lot of the NHS workers are travelling in from Essex and Kent. So.
Okay, so it's already happening. So in a way, what you're talking about, Kane, is happening. It's just been organised by Airbnb. Anyway, Bina, you've got a point.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that in Germany right now, some of the hostels are being used for homeless people.
Right.
So I think probably you can have two ways of thinking about this, right? Because in a way they are giving this space for them to be able to be in a place where they have water and electricity and all those things. But on the other hand, this way they are easier to control. But yeah, I mean that's what's happening.
Okay, so like tourist hostels you're talking about.
Yeah, because there are no tourists here right now in Berlin. So
yeah, I mean, what do people think about that? Is it just a way to control the homeless people? What about homeless people in general? How's it happening in London? Most people, I think, are logging in from London. Any views on that? Are we kind of serving the homeless people? Should we be giving the homeless the keys to all these flats? Key workers, will it lead to this kind of redistribution of property? And will the great redistribution of property actually be coordinated by Airbnb of all organizations? Some big questions.
I still see a couple of, actually, I don't really know if they're homeless, but.
So there are still homeless people that at least look homeless out on the street.
Yeah.
I think there's also an issue with mental health.
Yeah.
We've got a few characters around here, you know, some of them I chat to, and I noticed 2 or 3 of them sitting chatting on a bench together, like right beside each other. And of course, like, it's just sad. And yeah, they're just going to fall through the cracks a bit, aren't they? You know? And I think the people in question do have some sort of sheltered accommodation, I believe, but they're obviously pretty vulnerable, and it's tough. Yeah, I don't know the answer. Don't know the answer.
Okay.
No.
Positive comment.
I mean, is more being done for homeless people, or is it are they gonna fall through the cracks? What about the mental health side of things as well? Oh, have we got that covered? Is anyone really doing anything to aid people's mental health in this? I mean, to be honest, we're doing something which touches upon this question, because we're this time next Wednesday, in fact, we're doing a Talkaoke with Bethlehem Gallery, where we're investigating kind of interventions into mental health, and it's kind of gone on to this kind of on the street kind of approach. Is that how do you kind of investigate, how do you kind of instigate a more positive mental health out on the street? So that's one to watch next Wednesday at 12 o'clock. We're going to be doing that one, but it is certainly something that, you know, we're in a sort of tricky moment at the moment, I suppose, for people's mental health. And at what point do we need to address that more seriously? Probably now, I guess, is the answer to that one. What do people think?
Well, I kind of wonder what's going to happen psychologically after all of this, you know, like, you know, I kind of think, I'm not sure if I'm ever going to feel comfortable getting too close to my family again, because obviously I haven't actually been tested. So what if I keep thinking, what if I still have the virus in my body? You know, I don't really want to infect anyone. And yeah, so I just, like, I don't know. I wonder what are the psychological effects of this.
So you're anxious about infecting other people?
Yeah, I mean, there's a concern. Yeah, so I mean, I'm going to give it a couple of weeks before I actually like get close to my family again, because I don't. Even though it's probably no longer my body, but who knows? Who knows? So I don't know.
Javia?
Could I just add in just a little detail about the kind of path that it can take? It's great that, often it's phasic. So some people, and a lot of people will get mild symptoms and can have a full recovery. But we have seen that there is often a first phase of asymptomatic or super mild symptoms, but that there's a mutational path, and it's not a guaranteed one, but it does have this feature, and it remits. There's recovery, then there's remission again with the
right.
And so recovery I think is being a little misunderstood. And one of the features of COVID is that when it does get to pneumonia, that recovery, there is an estimation that if you get to that stage, that there'll be a subsequent 30% loss of lung capacity. And so, I think we should still carry on using masks, even if we feel good, and, at least shield to contain.
So you're saying that you could feel like you're recovered, but you're not necessarily recovered?
What we've seen in China and Italy is that people have had mild symptoms, recover, and then it returns. If it gets a bit more aggressive, it's more of a flu then. And in a percentage of the population, the flu, and the thing that COVID is, it's a mutating respiratory disease. So when it goes from being SARS-CoV-2, which are these kind of milder symptoms, to COVID-19, the pneumonia, that's the mutation that's problematic,
right. Okay, so it's wise probably for Ellen then to not see her family for a little bit if she thinks she's had the virus.
To take extra, like just for an ongoing period. The initially in Britain at the end of February that the incubation period was a week, and it's like there's good evidence that the incubation period was up to 28 days.
Wow.
From China, and so we've had a really kind of casual narrative spun, elderly and whatnot. I mean, in February, we knew that 50% of people on ventilators in Italy were under 50. That was not new information, and still they continued spinning it here as a flu for elderly and people with minor or conditions. But I would say ignore the government and take the scientific and medical advice.
Okay, where do we get that from then if we don't get it from the government?
I mean, who are pretty good? They're
The World Health Organization.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
But they're also still a little bit not as, I mean, they're good, but I think we could be doing better. I think we should be taking stricter considerations into the reality of it, rather than thinking that some mild symptoms means then a full recovery,
Okay, I just want to bring in Emmett, because I see Emmett's online. You've been kind of hovering. I don't know if you've been listening, but maybe we'll just introduce you. Just say hello, Emmett.
Hi, Mikey. Hi, everybody. I missed the beginning, so I don't know how much stuff you've already covered.
Let me fill you in.
I think there's a huge. Well, I just think there's a huge campaign at the moment to demonize anyone who's going outside at all, and because obviously there's a big issue of people are gathering in gangs, if they're meeting up, having picnics, all this kind of thing, where there's a whole group of people.
Yeah.
But individual people going out and walking in the parks in ones or twos, or it can be more than two if you like a family group who live in a household together. That's actually really positive, because there's a lot of evidence that vitamin D is really good for strengthening the immune system and limiting the ability of the virus to replicate inside you.
Okay.
And,
so you're
people staying indoors is actually making things worse in many ways. People are forced to go close to other people when they need to get food and stuff like that. And if they've been spending all the time indoors, they'll be much less healthy, much less vital, and much likely to be a much higher viral load, and likely to be shedding more.
Okay, so Emmett, you're practicing what you preach by going outside. What park are you in? Just
Hampstead Heath.
Hampstead Heath, okay.
I've been told you're not allowed to sit down. There was police apparently giving people grief earlier on for sitting down.
Okay, so you have to keep moving.
Well, no, I'm not on a bench. I'm sitting on the grass in a
Okay.
corner, just like surrounded by brambles and things. And you can see there's some people in the background near me, but
Okay.
they're about 20 yards away or something. I know they're walking the path.
Any response, any reaction to Emmet's comment from the audience? He's the only one outside at the moment. Should we be going out more as long as we stay far away, just soaking up a bit of sunshine, a bit of vitamin D? Any thoughts on this?
Can I come back before you leave me? Just I've got to turn off my microphone then. But the other things that are really good, other than vitamin D, is vitamin C, obviously, and zinc. You need at least 15 milligrams of zinc every day for your immune system. And there's also a really important thing called lysine. Lysine limits the ability of viruses to replicate inside you. And the counterpart to that is arginine. Arginine actually helps the viruses. So lots of foods that are otherwise healthy are actually high in arginine. So it's important to supplement with lysine if you want to limit the same way it helps to stop the reoccurrences of cold sores and things like that. So there's some of the most important things. So there's vitamin C, the zinc, the lysine, and the vitamin D. And if we're all taking them, we might. It's also meant to be one of the main reasons why flu doesn't tend to do very well in the summer, is actually because people are getting a lot more vitamin D, and the flu doesn't do so well in those conditions.
Okay, a bit of sunshine, vitamin D. Is this enough? Is the sun really the answer, the cure to coronavirus, or at least a weapon in the fight? What do people think? Are we getting enough sunshine? Are we misguided to? I mean, the rest of us are all indoors. Maybe that could be the next thing, is to just all go have like a park session where we're all in the park. Could we do that with today's technology? I might get into trouble wheeling this Talkaoke table out into the park.
If you did it all in the same park, you'd probably get in trouble, because you're not allowed to meet and go up in parks. But if everyone's in a different park,
I was thinking more park to park, to be honest. Like a park network, London park, well, global park networks. Should we be all linking up in the park whilst the sun is shining? I mean, yeah, Sabine?
I
Bina,
see,
in fact.
yeah. There are many people doing this. I mean, not in a Talkaoke way, but in when I go out to the park to take a walk, I see many people talking on their phones to their friends.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good idea. I think not only for the physical effects, but also for the mental effects. If you go out and get some sun and some fresh air, it's good for staying well, I think. And you can combine that with yeah, absolutely. And you can combine that with talking to other people on the phone or not.
Okay, so you're sort of agreeing with them, but
absolutely,
they're linking up. You could do across different parks as well, even global park link. What do people think about that? I mean, Joe earlier on was talking about a library of people, but you could have a kind of library of parks where you can have the park view from all the different parks around the world. Although I think in many countries park use has been banned.
That's true. I suppose there's always Google Maps. You can.
Yeah, you could sort of go in a sort of virtual park kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I do think I think a lot of the debate and the discourse in the UK hasn't been guided by the science. So of course it's dangerous to have so many people in parks, because it's very difficult to be 2 meters apart.
Yeah.
But I feel a bit sorry for people who live in much less populated parts of the UK who are getting the same messaging. Because it's about being 2 meters. It's about staying away from people and staying away from transmissible contact. And there seems to be almost this weird messaging that sunbathing in itself is a bad thing.
Yeah.
And sitting down in a park in itself is a bad thing. I think sitting it down in a highly populated park like we do have around here in South London creates problems, because it makes it harder for other people to socially distance around you, particularly if it's busy. So I'm not really challenging the government messaging in the sense that where we are now, we need to be doing everything we can to avoid transmission. But I do feel sorry for people who are in very lowly populated parts of the UK where they're getting the same messaging, because it doesn't really make sense if you're in if you're somewhere with really low population density and you want to go for a walk in your local fields and stop on a bench and there's no one around, you're not the most dangerous thing you did was if you've got collective doors or collective gates or you're in, but if you're nowhere near anybody, there isn't really an increase in any transmission rate there.
Okay.
Okay. I mean,
Am I right? I think I'm right, aren't I?
I don't know. Well, Javia's kind of become our medical expert. Any comments on this, Javia?
Well, I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that it should be 3 meters. I mean, yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. Just, you know, for now, lockdown, if you're going out, you've got to be wearing a mask, you know.
Should Emmett be wearing a mask in the park in Hampstead Heath?
If there's no one around, I have a mask with me, but whenever, of course, the 2 meters just isn't happening in Islington. It's like no one has heard of 2 meter spacing in Islington.
Wow.
It's staggering. And I've started saying, that's not 2 meters. That's not 2 meters. Because I'm like, are you having a laugh, people? You know? And this is the joggers. Like, you know. And so, you know, I don't know. It's a difficult one. You've just got to contribute to the responsible effort, you know, because we've already fucked up so royally that, you know, every little really will help, you know.
And what do you say about the sunshine in the parks and the zinc and the vitamin D and the vitamin C?
I mean, bow down. Vitamin D, are you kidding me? Vitamin D is the regulator of your immune system, and vitamin C levels are the military. Like, so when, you know, the levels of your vitamin C will determine the efficiency of the assault, you know. So I decided myself, I actually decided that if I do get it at home, because I'd actually been exposed to a colleague who'd been to Italy, and of course he was at work with me, do you know what I mean? And so I was like, oh shit, you know, I'm in my mid-40s, I smoke in the evening, I've been a smoker like that in my whole adult life. I have underlying conditions, you know, so, and kind of feeling already abandoned by the government in February, thought, right, I decided I was going to treat it therapeutically with high doses of vitamin C. Then I couldn't actually get any high dose vitamin C. So in looking for it, this is about a month ago, I decided for the first time ever that I would get an IV vitamin infusion because I couldn't get my hands on enough vitamin C to have in case. So I had a wellness IV vitamin infusion, high dose vitamin C, vitamin E, zinc, magnesium.
Right.
And it was incredible. It was very Barbarella. I was lying in a very relaxed with amazing music, watching orange vitamins drip into my veins on Wimpole Street, thinking,
wow,
God, the apocalypse is happening outside. Here I am listening to kind of evening jazz with vitamins dripping in my veins. It felt very reassuring, that's for sure.
Wow, okay. So you definitely subscribe to the vitamin thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and plus the sunshine. So I think it sounds like you and Emmett are pretty much in agreement there. Should we all be, I mean, dosing up? Is there like a sort of, is the supplement better than just simply getting the vitamins from food, or?
Well, obviously there's nothing like the natural, but if you're going to get it, try and get organic. If you're taking vitamin D, the thing with vitamin D, it's not like other vitamins. It's more of it needs to be absorbed in the gut, and so it's really good if you can get vitamin K2 to absorb your vitamin D3 if you're going to take it synthetically.
Okay. Joe, where are you going? You're off somewhere. You're going to the park.
I'm going for a jog. No, I'm getting my lead. I'm worried.
You're running out of batteries. Well, in a way, I think, like, you know, we're kind of sort of on the final passage of this. I mean, it's been a very nice chat. We have, I think, mostly focused on the situation at hand, and those that know Talkaoke know that quite often we will, you know, talk about other stuff as well. But I guess with such pressing issues, I suppose we've talked a little bit about the government, a little bit about community, a little bit about the shamans in the Amazon, and the new hope for, you missed that one, Emmett. We're talking about the shamans are kind of see the economy collapsing and this kind of lack of industrial activity as a sort of new start really for the planet. So we talked about a few different things, but I mean we're entering the kind of final passage now. So what do we want to talk about for the last few minutes? Do we want to talk more about some health ideas? Do we want to talk more about this global sense, about the community sense? Where do you want to take this conversation?
I don't know if you're addressing that at me, but could we bring in a citizen's income? They've just started one in Spain, and it's really the thing to basically sort out the entire global economic system with the uncertainty that we've been used to in the workplace and things for this time. Citizens' income would basically mean that everyone would always be better off earning more, and everyone's also better off if everyone else is earning more. So that you wouldn't begrudge whether a FTSE 100 company director or a footballer earning loads of money, because they'd be paying a lot of that in taxes to fund everyone else's citizens' incomes. Okay, and I think now is the time to make it happen.
So how does this work? You just get money for being a citizen? Is that it? Is it that simple?
Yeah, or probably for being ordinarily resident of the country, because you probably give it to people like refugees and people as well. And then, but then say you pay 50% of all your other earnings in tax. And if companies had to pay 50% of their earnings in tax as well, then they wouldn't. At the moment,
we kind of lost you a little bit there.
Loads of money by registering themselves as a company. That's a ridiculous system. Tax laws that are not non-domiciled and not paying any.
Emmett, I kind of lost you there, but I think I've got the point there that we should be applying the citizens' income. What do other people think about that? Should we? Is this one thing we could take out of this, that we should just give every citizen an income, lose some of the anxiety about where your money's coming from?
Be amazing. I think it would be a really important move for mental health. I think with zero contract hours, I think all of that kind of shift in labor rights is vastly underestimated in the impact it's had on people's mental health, the inability to have certainty, the inability to know, even from getting up in the morning and going to work, if still you will have your day at work, and I think it's played a huge part into kind of crumbling people's mental stability over the last 10 years. So I think it would be really good for mental health, Okay.
I mean, does everyone else agree with this? Can we afford to give everybody this citizens' income, as Emmett called it?
We can afford it.
We can afford it.
Always afford it.
Yeah. Okay.
What you used to afford.
Yeah. Joe, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good idea. I can't really, I mean, Universal Basic Income Organization, I've done presentations with them, and it all made sense to me. I think there are, I know they've piloted it in various places, and there are some glitches and problems that need to be looked at.
What are the problems?
Oh gosh, I'm not going to say, because I don't know. I think they tried it in some Scandinavian countries a little bit, in some areas. I think there are some issues with it. I mean, I think one of the questions for me would be who would be a citizen and who isn't. In terms of status, that could be kind of challenging. But I just think, I think it's just coming from a place of abundance, and I think it would make a hell of a lot of sense in 2020 that people are not living so precariously as they are now. Why do people have to live just as precariously when there is wealth in the system? I think it could be, I'm all for it, basically. Okay, so it sounds like we've got a group of people here that are all in favor of this universal basic income as Joe described it. There's only seem to be positive. There's maybe some technical questions about who gets to have it. No one really seems to think that we can't afford it. We live, as Joe was saying, we live in a period of abundance. So what's the problem? Will we come out of this with this universal basic income? Is it a realistic possibility? Apparently it's happening in Spain. Any other thoughts? People just like, that's the thing. I think everyone here just agrees on this. It's just that we're not really the government. I think other people will call it communist.
Yeah, well, I mean, is this the route to full Bina?
Yeah, I think this is one of the problems that they will have to face in Spain, because it is one of the things that have been demanded by leftist parties, right? So they shouldn't brand it that way. They should market it in a whole different way. And I think my boyfriend is Spanish, and I asked him about it when I read it in the German and in the English media. And he said, no, I haven't heard about this. And I think it's because they are using a different name for it in Spain right now. So they're not using the name that they used to give it when they're talking about it. So I think they're doing right. I hope they succeed.
Okay, so if it's considered a left-wing idea, then no one will really buy it. But if it's if it's somebody like Boris Johnson proposing it, then maybe if it's seen as a right-wing idea, then more people would buy it. Okay, I mean, does that matter? Would the left-wing people here buy this thing if it was suddenly considered a very right-wing idea, this universal basic income? We've got a new face over here. Hello, Saul. Can you hear us? No, he's gone again. Okay, we'll bring him in later. Well, at the moment, we're talking about, in a way, we're talking about positives about all of this crisis, and will we end up with a universal basic income? And if we do, who gets to get it? Will this little guy here get to have it? Or will it just be the adults? These are some of the questions. Everyone seems to be in favor of it. In a way, it's kind of like how it gets introduced. Emmett, what's your point?
Yeah, you just mentioned about the right-wing people, because Milton Friedman, who's kind of like the high priest of modern right-wing economics, he was a big fan of it, because under the current system, you have disincentives for people to work. We have all these index, you have all these income-related benefits. They give people a disincentive to work, because if they earn more, they're not any better off, and sometimes they're even worse off.
Right.
And under a citizen's income kind of thing, you'd have a much flatter system where basically everyone would be better off if they work more, and everyone would be better off if everyone else worked more. So it's a real virtuous circle.
So in a way, it is a right-wing idea to a certain extent, or at least from Milton Friedman, who's, maybe we can find out a bit more about him. But we've got another new face. We've got Piotr here. Just say hello, Piotr. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I was hearing you. I was just I was on the loan, so that's why I was hide under the under the black screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the last question, of course I agree. You know, with the universal support for all. It's kind of tricky who could get or all. If all the people should get the universal support, the question is for how long, or for how long it will not affect actually the country, or it will not, if the country will not collapse, if, for example, it will not finish after 2 or 3 months, if it will go further, like to lockdown up to like 6 months or something like that. You know, it's tricky. It's hard. You know.
I think the consensus here around this table, if you can call it that, is that it should last forever.
Yeah, it should last forever. Yeah.
Why not? I think that's what people are saying. That once you've started it, why not just keep going with it?
So you're saying that government should pay the basic pay for all the people
forever? Yeah, just
forever
to keep people
till when? So how the government will get the money then?
Okay, well, can someone else answer Piotr's question? Anyone got an answer for this? How's the government going to be able to afford this? Those proponents of this universal basic income, how's it going to work? Can the government really afford? Kane, you've got a point over here.
Yeah, I guess it feels like a clear mechanism is to actually tax big businesses properly and enforce it, and tax individuals who are earning at the highest rate at a higher level. I mean, it feels like an obvious thing that there are a lot of companies that are obviously able to shelter their profits offshore, and at the moment there's very little imperative to go after that money.
Okay, I mean, will there be more of an imperative now that we've run up a huge debt and possibly even bigger one with universal basic income, or do you think that money will just stay in those tax havens?
I guess they're gonna have to do it. I mean, you know, I think it's, yeah. I mean, isn't it essential that that happens now?
Okay, well, I
We
don't
run
know.
out of money.
Yeah,
I kind of don't know enough about finance to be able to advise.
well, nobody does, not even the money people. I don't think so. Is there a point from Saul over there? Hello, Saul.
Hello there. Hi, everyone. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make this point because I might have an intervention at some stage. Yeah. But the method for paying for UBI really depends on where you think value in society comes from. And I think that what the coronavirus lockdown has shown us, and maybe the point, is that value comes from people working. So it's not a matter of how do you get tax from people in the existing system, it's how do you recognize the way that value is actually produced and then redistribute the benefits of that value. So as to a situation where more and more of the economy is automated and you've got higher leverage for the amount of labor that you put into things, then you've got to do something with the surplus. And then either we decide to let people offshore it into tax havens or we roll it back into the economy. And UBI is a very inclusive mechanism for doing that. So I think if you're going to look at something like UBI as a permanent fixture of our economy, then you also have to look at the whole structure of the sort of macro economy that we're working within. I think.
Okay. We lost Saul there. I don't know if Saul got that idea from Big Bad Pig, the book he was holding up, or if that's just a random thing. But we seem to have lost. So we lost you there for a second. We lost your final point there.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, never mind. I was just going to say.
Yeah.
Think about, if we're going to think about UBI as a permanent fixture, we need to think about where the value in society comes from as a whole.
But I mean, how are we going to replug, you know, almost as if it is like a, you know, imagine that the economy is like a mixing desk. How are we going to replug the economy so that the flow goes in the right way? If you're saying that it actually comes from the value of people working, how do you actually get that money through to back to those people that are just getting paid to be people? How do you?
Well, I mean, it's a very inclusive mechanism for doing that. And it doesn't mean that you can't also do additional work, which may be taxed at different rates. But just being a person shouldn't mean that you have to basically live in an undignified or unsustainable way or a dangerous way, which is the situation that we find ourselves in. So, you know, it's not about how do you pay for it, it's how do you configure the economy. That's the question.
All right, so let's just look at this from a different perspective. How do we actually configure things to make this work for us? From your perspective, Saul, it's a no-brainer that this would lead to a less, and I like the idea of danger and of dignity. So there's some of these ideas would actually, you know, are different in a way, different questions about value, which is not monetary value. So will the economy get reconfigured? Do people have any belief that this could happen now we've got this corona insight into things? Ellen, you got a point?
You know what, I'm just popping back into the conversation.
Okay, so we're talking about no, I don't, somehow you just popped up big for some reason, I don't know why. But anyway, so okay, well, we are kind of in the last 10 minutes of this anyway. So I mean, it is probably worth we talked a lot about like what the kind of positive things we can draw out of this situation are, and is universal basic income one of them? Will we just go back to thinking that it's impossible, that we can't change anything? Silence.
I think it's a really important opportunity to really revalue or reprioritize our values, you know. if this isn't the thing that helps us get to that deeper level of reevaluation, you know, it has to be this. Surely this is going to be the pivotal moment, you know.
I mean, how is it actually going to work in people's thinking? How is it going to help people reevaluate? What's the kind of thought process going to be?
Well, as a healthcare professional, I would hope that after this, there is an understanding that salaries need to treble, not just increase a little, that they actually need to seriously treble every single salary in healthcare for it to be the value that it is, you know. But the problem is it's the 5th largest employer in the world with the NHS. So increasing salaries is a big cost to the government. And so they're continuously invested in
so it's a big shake of the money tree, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there a point from you, Saul? No. So what does reevaluating actually mean to people? I mean, that's one perspective from Javia. Is anyone else going to be reevaluating, and how?
Well, I just wanted to add that this is one of the hopes that I think are realistic, that policy making will be forced to include higher wages for health workers in the future. In general, some of us have more time now to think and reevaluate, but some others, for example, people who have kids, probably don't have more time now.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I don't have kids myself, but I've seen it all around. So all my friends who have kids are going crazy right now because, and I think so. Not only the health workers should be paid more, obviously, but also people who take care of kids, and maybe people who have kids start reevaluating this kind of work too. That's one hope I have.
So it definitely gives a different sense of like who's an important worker in society, I think is the point there. Okay, we're talking about reevaluating. How are we going to reevaluate both personally? Joe, come on. I think you're muted there, Joe. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, picking up and like agreeing with Jarvia, and then thinking and agreeing with, you know, that potential to reevaluate and restructure. It would be great if there was, like, you know, some of the real weaknesses in our society that have been highlighted by this, if they could be, you know, addressed, so that, like, why aren't there enough ICU beds? Why isn't there enough hospital beds? Why is that? You know, why are we living so close to the edge in a lot of these things? And there's some echoes. So I have a friend who went missing in 2016, and sadly, so we went on quite an investigation, and a lot of the community got involved, and it was a big story. And sadly, it was we didn't find. We think his ending was tragic, but along the way, it allowed me to rub up against things like the police service, and try and work with local police and work with other kind of local infrastructure. And one of the things that I realized was that there was, in the UK anyway, there was a massive gap between what most people thought was out there in terms of infrastructure and what was really out there in terms of infrastructure. So, you know, you would say to people, oh, my friend's gone missing, and they go, oh, don't worry, they'll have all these CCTV, and they'll have all this, like, everybody will be checking. And they were given the impression that it was kind of a bit like CSI Miami. And but the reality was, it was some bloke called Keith who got an email every Tuesday, who only did a few days a week, and a lot of it had been franchised out, and a lot of services like you know, who owns CCTV cameras, for example, it's very hard to get footage, and this was a vulnerable adult who'd gone missing. So I think this crisis reminds me a little bit of that, because some people are still thinking, oh yeah, we're the UK, we're brilliant, we've got all this. In reality, we're not brilliant, and we don't have all this. And I just hope there's somewhere where if we start asking that question, there might be a real restructuring. Like, why do we have less ICU beds than Germany? Why is that acceptable? You know, why do we have less hospital beds per capita than other countries that are, you know, not necessarily that better off than us? So, I mean, that's just one question, but I think there's other questions like that.
So there's a lot of questions to be asked, and certainly about infrastructure and services. Anyone else got a sort of thought about how they're going to reevaluate, either personally, Emmett?
Yeah, I saw a thing. I can't remember who first came up with it. It was in some other country, I think, and it said we can't go back to normality because normality was the problem.
Yeah.
Basically, what we've had for the last 30, 40 years, the neoliberal thing, is it's just it's completely unsustainable. It's unsustainable economically. It's unsustainable ecologically. It's unsustainably societally unsustainable. And like the idea that people can fly away for a weekend and come back again just for a weekend is like crazy. You know, planes are amazing. It means that you can go and move halfway around the world from New Zealand to Britain or something, but you can't expect to be able to fly backwards and forwards all the time. You know, it has to be for a long period of time. And we have to create a new normal. And we've got time now to talk about it and to think about it. Not everybody, obviously, not the health workers, not the people with children, but so many of the rest of us could really put our heads together a lot in this time and really start to create really solid. Now, I've written stuff on the universal basic income. I call it tug of war towards unbounded growth and finite world and resources. And it's a really simple thing that you could win huge support to really easily. And obviously the vested interests aren't in favour of it, because who wants to do those crummy jobs if they don't have to do it to pay the rent? Then suddenly people will want to start doing jobs that are socially useful instead of just jobs that are making profits for some basis corporation.
Okay, so there's quite a lot of questions there. I mean, if we do give people a universal basic income, aren't they just going to buy more stuff and use up more resources? Anyway,
no, the thing is, they'll buy more things because that's the whole thing. When rich people already have everything they need. So what we've seen in the last while is whether the conservatives in Britain, the Republicans in America, giving more money to the rich, and they just send it to tax havens because they don't need more stuff. If you give money to poor people, they've got very high what they call marginal propensity to consume because they've got loads of things that they need. And this is where you get economic growth. But in the last while, we've had what we've been subsidizing is fossil fuel exploitation. And if instead of subsidizing fossil fuel exploitation, we use the citizens' income to subsidize people. So instead of, it's expensive to buy things, but cheap to employ people. Then you get this virtuous circle. The money goes round and round and round in society, and we all get more wealthier.
Okay. Let me just bring Kane in on that. But I guess there is still this tension between economic growth and ecological sustainability. But Emmett, I'm going to come back to you in a second on that one because I just want to bring Kane in at this point.
I guess just coming to what we've been talking about what the new normal looks like. I guess on a more negative side, are we seeing a little bit of a fundamental erosion of our privacy? I think there's not things like CCT, the stuff that was followed by countries like South Korea in terms of tracking on phones, and there's discussions now about having similar mechanisms so that we can work out, if with anyone who has coronavirus, who they've been in contact with. Isn't that fundamentally problematic? And does that not just open up future tracking and surveillance that could be used for more problematic?
What are the problematic uses of the surveillance?
I mean, I think you probably look to China about what the problematic issues of surveillance are.
Right. Okay. So we'll end up a bit more like an authoritarian.
A bit more authoritarian.
Yeah. Okay. It is actually time to get final thoughts because we're going to have to log off of this stream. Let's get some final thoughts from people. I guess we talked a lot about this reevaluation. Are we going to end up like more communist, both in the authoritarian sense and in the provision of basic stuff? Is that where we're going with this? So let's have some final thoughts. Anybody? I could do like a long 2-minute kind of outro if you want, but was there a final thought from you, Joe, there? Did I see your hand raised?
Yeah, just really quickly, I've really enjoyed it. It's been really interesting. What came away from me is something around, like, there are some green shoots here. like some positive things, particularly around what we value both personally and structurally. But there is also a danger that the narrative could go in lots of really dodgy ways as well. So I think we all have responsibility to try and amplify and strengthen the things that we want in our own communities, or whatever sphere of influence we've got.
Yeah. Okay, and that's a really good final thought. Any other final thoughts? Emmett, final thought?
Yeah, I think our new normal should be from each according to the need, to the ability, and to each according to the need.
From each according to their abilities to each according to their needs. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's our new normal. It means basically everyone does what they can, and everyone gets what they need.
Okay.
We've started to see it happen already in this moment. We've started to see it happen with the coronavirus, but we're expected to go back to what we were doing 3 months ago afterwards, and I don't think people want to do that.
Okay, let's get some other final thoughts. Final thought, Piotr, have you got a final thought?
No, I mean, as like most of you already said, like what will be taken as normality afterwards. I mean, for sure, we will have time to evaluate what we were doing before, and we actually have plenty of time now, actually, to check. Maybe I could do something differently to make it better, or like, yeah.
Okay, so we've got that time to reflect. Final thoughts. Bina, have you got a final thought?
I'd like to say, give yourself some time to not think and enjoy the sun.
Okay, it doesn't all have to be thinking, it could be not thinking as well. How do you not think?
I mean, you can, I think going outside is a good idea, and then you see, you get some more, some visual input, and then a park is probably a good place to let your thoughts go to different places, and not only connect to all the devices and read the news all the time.
Okay, well, I'm connected to about 10 different devices at the moment, so I need to get out there for sure. Final thoughts? Anyone else? So, Javi, you've got a final thought?
Stay positive, optimistic, and connected and aware.
So, okay. I missed the last bit, Javier. Sorry, go on. So?
That's pretty much what I had in mind as well. I would say, I don't know if anybody else has done this, but I've been getting in touch with my neighbours and just communicating more with people.
Yeah, we were talking about that about an hour and a half ago, actually. But
it's just, let's do more of that. And everybody, and as many people as possible in discussion about what next. Because my sense is that this is going to go on for a very long time, and that it's just not going to be possible to go back to what anybody would have considered normal, or many people would have been considered normal before. So something is going to happen next.
Okay, so this is not the end of it. It's not just us sitting all indoors. There will be something after this, you think?
Yeah, and it's important that a lot of people are involved in discussing it. So I think that's my manager's getting restless, so I better go.
All right, well, thank you. Anyone got a final thought? Hortense, I don't know if you're still there or not. Anyone got a final thought just to cap this off? Ellen, have you got anything finally to say?
Yeah, just thank you for the discussion. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, thanks everybody for and this is just the beginning. We're still playing with the technology. We're actually a bit, I will say here, we're a little bit kind of, we're trying to bring in some other, we've not quite got as far as we wanted to today in terms of mixing in some other video feeds. We've actually got different platforms connected, but we've not told anybody about how to contact us on those different platforms. So we just haven't got around to it. So we are still at that experimental stage, but we're trying to make this into more of a live feel so that it's not got this kind of, at the moment, it's this very flat kind of grid of people. We want to sort of visualize people around this, maybe even, they could even go here on this green screen, if we can work out how to do that kind of stuff. So we're still working on some of these things, and and a lot of the people here are quite regular participants. So hopefully you'll see the development of how things move on. This is very much an experimental thing. So also I really appreciate you guys coming in and having a go at this and helping out and giving your ideas. And it's really great as well to get some different perspectives here as well. From my own outlook and my mental health for sure, it's great to get your perspectives. So that's it. So thanks everyone for taking part.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody, and go out and enjoy the sunshine if you've got sunshine where you are. I think most of us have. So it's time to get out in the sun and get that vitamin D going.
And happy Pesach.
Happy Pesach.
Yes.
Happy Pesach.
Happy
We
Pesach.
talked about that as well earlier on.
Good Yom Tov.
Yeah.
Good Yom Tov. Yeah.
So I will see you all later and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye-bye.